Load of hotel stories out over the last week. Big plans in Saudi for new hotel rooms, and a recent report here that has named Dubai as one of the most expensive places in the world to go on holiday. According to this report, we're more expensive than Paris, we're more expensive than Tokyo, and we're more expensive than Hong Kong. In the studio to talk to us about what that means for Dubai's tourism appeal and how likely that is Christopher Hewett. He is the Associate Director at TRI Consulting. He's our local tourism expert. Chris, thanks very much. Expert even. Not export. He's my export. He's a New Zealander, but he is an expert as well. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Kia ora. Right. This survey out from the website Hopper. They looked at 84 cities around the world in terms of how expensive they were. They put Dubai in at number 13. What do you make of that?
Well, if we look at the breakdown of what was causing this cost to be on the high level, there were a few things. One of them obviously is room rates. The room rates are still quite high. A report that came out last year said that Dubai was the fourth most expensive in the world for hotel room rates. But we're seeing the room rates drop, and they reduced 8% last year. So there is a decline in the room rates that we're seeing across the market. In particular, they mentioned wine as one aspect that was more expensive than a lot of places in the world, so that obviously pushed things up. But then if you look at other aspects where Dubai is a lot cheaper, you look at transportation with transport, taxis in particular, it was lower than what we've seen in other countries. So 13 is still quite high, but I think that we're seeing that Dubai is becoming more and more affordable.
Are we really more expensive though? Because this is the bit we got a lot of texts into the business breakfast. Eyebrows raised, digital eyebrows raised. Are we really more expensive than Tokyo? Are we really more expensive than Paris?
I think that if you look at what Dubai has, the reason why there is a high expense, I think, is because of the offering that Dubai has, particularly with hotels. You know, it is still very much a five-star dominated market. We are seeing a greater growth in the number of economy and mid-scale hotels, which are more affordable. But you know, Dubai still is quite expensive when it comes to average room rates in hotels, and I think that's where a lot of that argument is coming from.
I don't know. I mean, to me, fourth most expensive hotels in the world. Yes, that sounds expensive, but of course, I would say we probably have at least the fourth best hotels in the world. These are fantastic hotels we're talking about, on average. Some absolutely unique hotels, ones that people travel from all over the world to stay at and would be very pleased to stay at. Yes, they're expensive, but they're right up there.
They are up there, but what we're going to see now is Dubai's moving to a mass tourism market. You know, you've got the change that's happening in Dubai with the theme parks that are coming through, more family-orientated tourism offerings, and that's going to need a wider range of accommodation to cater to the wider range of people who are going to be staying here.
The Burj Al Arab Youth Hostel, that sort of thing. Yeah.
But we still have a high dollar, and we probably will have for some time, and we're about to get VAT on top of that as well. What effect is that going to have on the cost of our tourism offerings?
It's going to make it more expensive, obviously. An extra potential 5% of VAT on top of service charge, the room rates and the municipality fees.
Which is about, 22% in
That's
total,
correct.
isn't it?
That's correct.
So that would make it, 27%?
Yep.
Wow.
So, the hoteliers are going to have to adjust to that. They're going to have to adjust to that by looking at room rates and adjusting that to the spending power of the visitors. At the moment, the dollar is very strong, and that's making it more expensive as a destination for people from throughout the world.
Is there any suggestion that perhaps this VAT might be delayed for hotel rooms? We have a stated aim to get 20 million people into the country. We've got we want to get a lot of people to come and see Expo 2020. That it may be delayed until after that for hotels.
I think that could be a great idea. We don't want to see a reduction in the number of tourists that are coming. There has to be an annual increase of about 7 to 8% every year to reach 20 million visitors. We had 14.9 million visitors in 2016, 14.2 in 2015. So they're slightly below that growth rate for the last year. But we think it will increase, but in order to do that, it needs to be more affordable. We need to see greater offerings, and I think having that VAT maybe delayed for the tourism sector would be a possible way of ensuring that that growth rate doesn't get subdued.
Well, we are talking about filling hotel rooms. Another figure to give us pause this week was the news that Saudi's going to open 68 hotels this year, nearly 30,000 hotel rooms. Can the kingdom fill them all year round?
I think there's going to be some markets in Saudi Arabia where there is going to be issues of seasonality with this new supply coming in. If you look at Riyadh in particular, Riyadh has got the majority of the new supply that's going to be coming into the kingdom. And historically, Riyadh has probably been underserved when it comes to the number of rooms, but we've seen a huge amount come in a very short period of time. And there will be issues, I think, with seasonality and occupancy across the year, particularly during the summer months where you do get, a void of demand. Government and corporate demand drives hotels in Riyadh. And as that cools off during the winter month or summer months, you're going to have a lot of hotels with empty beds.
Well, when I read that story, Saudi opened 68 hotels, I thought, well, I don't know how unusual that is in a nation of 28 million people, but I assume that most of those were going to be in the Western Province and were going to cater for religious tourism. But in fact, you say they're mostly in Riyadh.
Yeah, we've got mostly in Riyadh. Obviously, there is one hotel. There's a 10,000
very big one.
A 10,000 room hotel that's going to be opening in Mecca. It's going to be the world's largest hotel. That is a huge supply for that city.
You'd have good feet if you're a room service guy, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. That's going to have a huge impact on Mecca, but obviously Mecca has got the ability, and Saudi has the ability to control demand. They can increase the number of visas that they allocate for pilgrims, and can obviously fill up those rooms if needed.
Well, visa's the magic word here, isn't it? Because we've got the Saudi government looking to create more tourism jobs. Vision 2030 wants to double the number of UNESCO tourism sites. You've got two big mega malls planned. They're obviously partly for visitors as well as locals. But we need things like tourism visas as well if we want to move beyond domestic tourism in Saudi. How do you see that playing out?
Well, the focus that they have for tourism is more within the GCC and MENA and Arab countries. I don't think they're going to be focusing international tourism to Saudi Arabia, and there simply isn't tourist visas at the moment for people to get, and if there are, they're very, very difficult. So a lot of it will be on GCC travellers, particularly the countries that can go in there on free travel. And there will be some from other areas like Egypt, Jordan and the likes.
I kind of disagree with you there, Chris. I mean, I've been to the southwestern part of Saudi Arabia, the Asir National Park, Khamis Mushaid, Jabal Najran, Jazan, and their architecture is very similar to Yemen, further south, which of course is not really accessible. People do want to go and see that. And in that southwestern corner, the hills go right down from 3,000 feet down to the Red Sea. You've got the lovely diving down that part of the Red Sea. And at the top, 3,000 feet higher, and even in the summer, you get hail and ice. And there's lots of rice paddies up there. It is absolutely fantastic. It's a great tourist area. And if they could develop that, I think it would be actually an international hotspot for tourism in this region.
I agree. I've been to those places, and I've been to a lot of places in Saudi Arabia where they've got a lot of historical and cultural significance. But I think looking at the government, Saudi government, I don't see them having a strong focus on international tourists as part of their development plan for the tourism sector. It's going to be focused more on the GCC and MENA markets. If they do want to increase international tourism, then they have to look at ways of increasing the availability of tourist visas and allowing people to come in there either as a tour or as individuals.
Perhaps they could do it for GCC residents rather than for certain nationalities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks very much for joining us this morning, Christopher Hewett, Associate Director at TRI Consulting. As always,